In this lecture, we're going to learn about consteval functions. And consteval is a keyword that was introduced in C++20 to guarantee that the function gets evaluated at compile time. And if the function can't get evaluated at compile time, you're going to get a compiler error. Here we have the same example we had in the last lecture, but now you see that this function is marked as consteval. We can see that right here. And if we hit the main function and try to call this function like we do on this line here, this is going to work because for is a literal, which is known at compile time. So this function here is going to be evaluated at compile time, and this is going to work. But if you try to use a runtime variable like we do on this second line here, we're going to get a compiler error because consteval tells the compiler this function has to be evaluated at compile time. If you can't evaluate it at compile time, please throw a compiler error. This is what we're going to get here. And this is really all there is about this consteval keyword when you use it with functions like this. We're going to head over to Visual Studio Code and actually play with us. Okay, here we are in our working directory. The current project is consteval functions. We're going to grab our template files and put those in our project here. And we're going to open this up in Visual Studio Code. Let's do that. We're going to open folder. We are going to have our main CPP file here. Let's clean it up. And we are going to put in our function here. In the last lecture, it was constexpr. Now we are going to mark it as consteval. Okay, we're going to do this. And when we do this, this is going to force this function to be evaluated at compile time. If it can't be evaluated at compile time, when we call it in main, we're going to get a compiler error. We are basically telling the compiler, evaluate this function. Okay, run this at compile time. If you can't do that, please throw a compiler error. This is what we are telling the compiler. So if we go down here and say int result, for example, exactly what we did in the last lecture, we're going to say get value, and we're going to pass in a 4, for example. This is going to be a compile time known literal, so this is going to work. But if we try to set up another variable, let's say some var, and put in a 5, for example, and say result equals get value, and pass in some var, you're going to see that we're going to get a compiler error. Hopefully, Visual Studio Code is going to give us a few squiggly lines. You see we have them here. And if we bring up a terminal, we're going to see what it is going to say. Consteval function getValue did not produce a valid constant expression. So what this really means is that this can't be evaluated at compile time because this is consteval. The compiler is going to throw a compiler error. Let's try and pass this through GCC and see what we get. You see, we get a really weird compiler error. The value of some var is not usable in a constant expression. So this is code name for the value of some var isn't known at compile time. And we're going to get a compiler error. And this is really how consteval functions work. You use them if you want your computation to be evaluated at compile time and enforce that. If it can't be evaluated at compile time, you're going to get a compiler error, and you're going to probably fix this and use something that is known at compile time. This brings us to the end of this chapter. We are going to stop here in this lecture. In the next one, we're going to try and recap what we saw in this chapter. Go ahead and finish up here and meet me there.